We're moving on from cybersecurity now to one of the world's great manufacturers. The doyen of the early days at Silicon Valley, right there at the birth of the computing industry. We're going to be joined in a second, as you can see on the screen, by the Vice President and Managing Director of Hewlett-Packard, of HP, as we like to call it. You all know HP. If you haven't touched a HP product in your life, I'd be very, very surprised. Pervasive on a global basis, gentlemen over there nodding. Thanks for doing that. So we titled this HP's Engineering Experiences That Amaze, and I know from talking to Neil that one of the things that's very close to HP's heart is sustainable manufacturing and building sustainable communities with thoughtfulness around diversity, let alone sustainability. So I'm going to step off stage. I'm going to introduce Neil, but before we do so, there's a little something for you all to watch. Neil, we're looking forward to hearing you speak.
Sustainability. Everyone is trying to do better. We're making promises. Promises our kids need us to keep. Setting climate goals. Good start. Cutting absolute emissions in half this decade. Even better. But climate action is now expected. Real sustainable impact comes from companies willing to go beyond proud promises. Companies like HP, who have been doing the right thing for decades. Here, sustainable impact starts with people in nurturing the balance between climate action, human rights, and digital equity. Each interconnected, united for the greater good in service of humanity. Like improving working conditions for Haitians in ocean-bound plastic collections, whose children can go to tech-enabled learning centers, where their stories are told in their mother tongue language and published in partnership with NABU. So, let's go beyond the status quo, beyond lofty promises, beyond expectations. Because for us, it's not just about leaving the smallest footprint. It's about making the biggest impact.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Neil Sawyer. And for those of you who are online, if you've got questions you want to submit, please do so. Neil and I are going to be chatting for 10 minutes at the end of the presentation. Neil, over to you.
Thank you, Alid. I'll step away from the lectern, but I'll be careful not to step behind because there's a huge step behind me. So thank you for the opportunity to come and present to you for 20 or 30 minutes today. I wanted to talk a little bit about 4 key subjects and what does technology mean from a planet perspective. What does it mean from a communities doing tech for good perspective? How do we start developing technology to serve some of the issues that we see in the community and of course globally for tomorrow? And I didn't think an Englishman could rock up in Wales and not talk about what a large global technology company can do and is doing within Wales. And for those eagle-eyed folk, you'll notice that that's the Wrexham football team. So if you do support Wrexham, then HP are a major sponsor of Wrexham football. So if nothing comes out of this, if you want free tickets to Wrexham, then I can definitely sort that out, given our partnership with the club. But on a more serious point, HP's ambition is very much about being the most sustainable and just technology organization within our industry across the globe. We've got well over 80 years of looking at how we develop strong communities. How do we make sure that we are good citizens as an organization, but at the same time being a business and returning the required objectives to our shareholders and investors. And we've been doing that for a long time. Sustainable impact is not just about making sure that we deliver on our carbon net zero commitments by 2030. That has to be done, not just in terms of our own supply chain, but also all of the other supply chains that we leverage and then the supply chains that we then deliver into markets such as Wales, but of course broadly across Europe and the wider planet as well. And part of the brief for today was very much looking at three key areas, and we look at it in terms of climate action. We look at making sure that we deliver sustainable engineering experiences through supporting human rights. As you can imagine, being a very large organization, we have to make sure that we commit to and understand our own supply chain from a human rights perspective, as well as a planet or environmental perspective. And one of the areas that I will talk about shortly is, of course, around developing technology for tomorrow. And of course, that comes in the latest shiny laptops that are thinner than they ever have been before. That's a given. We get the technology rolling pin out and make sure that we have beautifully designed, aesthetically pleasing product. But technology, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, is not just about producing great technology. It's about making sure that we put the technology in the hands of those people that need the access to it, that don't have access to it readily, and importantly, making sure that we invest in communities. And I'll talk a little bit about HP's foundation and what we do and how we can support Wales and other markets and communities around the world. So those three key areas are summarized like this. From a climate action point of view, we look at three key areas within our climate commitment. First of all, absolutely is carbon emissions, making sure that we are respectful in terms of our manufacturing and supply chain, making sure that we invest back into oxygenating the planet through reforestation projects that we run globally and also nationally here within Wales. And then also making sure that technology can be recycled, not just for other uses in the future, but also refurbished technology as well, to put that into the hands of people that cannot necessarily always afford new technology or don't always necessarily need new technology. And that's a big trend within the technology marketplace. So if you work in purchasing or procurement or IT strategy management, then please always make sure you ask the question within your tender requests and your requests for information around how technology companies like HP and our compadres are investing back into refurbishing and regenerating technology. The other areas that I'm very keen to emphasize is, of course, around empowerment of workers. We at HP spend a lot of time studying our upmarket supply chain. And what I mean by that is that, of course, a finished goods producer like HP also sources many, many components from many, many suppliers in order to produce that equipment. And what's absolutely critical is that all of our supply chain provision is done ethically, and it's monitored and it's studied and it delivers the same standard that any employee of HP directly would expect. So we make sure that that is a critical area of our organization. And I think, looking at what's happening in the world today in terms of some of the conflicts, some of the issues that we see day to day, then standing up for what matters, whether it be around diversity and inclusion, whether it be around equality, or whether it be around certain issues that specifically impact local communities. These are all areas that large organizations stand up for, and it's not about making more money, and it's not a popularity contest. We believe that ultimately doing good and raising awareness does good for broader communities. And the final point, and I mentioned it on the previous slide, is ensuring that the technology that we invest in actually generates digital equality and equity as well. And that might come in the form of investments that we make through the United Nations, but also if you are, again, working on community projects within Wales or a broader area, then come and speak to me. I'm always open to new ideas to invest in reforestation, putting technology into the hands of young people to help them learn, particularly given that I'm sure over the next day or last day, you've heard a lot about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and how that's going to impact the career paths of tomorrow. We have a responsibility as an industry to invest in your communities to help grow and develop the knowledge base that you see. So please ask the question. The worst we can say is no, we're not going to do it, but the always commitment is that we will consider all of those options to make sure that we make both Wales and the broader economies around the world a better place and a more equal place. What we study in our world is, of course, making sure that we can stand up against what we say. We are the top 1% of companies globally that is recognized for our social and environmental effort. And importantly, when we look at those accolades, they're not just awards, but they're methods for us to benchmark on our performance against other organizations. And the reason for that is that we all expect sustainability. These aren't our statistics, these are studies from research groups. But when we look at the fact that 97%, almost all of people, are prepared to take action to live in a more environmentally conscious way, the anecdote that I always give is that as a child, I can't remember my parents recycling anywhere near as much as my household does. Yes, occasionally the wine bottles went into the recycling bin and a bit of cardboard down the local depot. But the consistent way that we are all recycling now and all putting back in thought around how to make an environmentally sustainable planet is a massive consideration. And that's because consumption is at an all-time high as the population of the planet is at an all-time high. And when we then look at IT users, particularly now in many public sector procurement requirements, we are actively scored around 20% of all of our scoring in those responses against what HP and others are doing to make sure that we contribute towards a locally sustainable environment, but also a globally sustainable environment as well. And we see, great progress in Wales. One of our big customers is Cardiff University. And, to see Cardiff #1 in Wales for higher education, but importantly, the 52nd most sustainable higher education establishment around the world is a massive accolade for local communities, and it really shows what can be done on a global level and Wales's contribution towards that. I think, when we look back at the combination of being sustainable in our practices, but actually reforesting the environment is critical. We know the connection between reforestation and oxygenating the planet are inextricably linked. And this is something that everybody can do. And I just did a little bit of a calculation, is that, if every member of the Welsh population planted 3 trees, that would be 9 million trees. That would reduce the impact of 25,000 cars on the road each year. Of course, notably, that would be petrol or diesel. But equally, of course, electric vehicles carry their own sustainability impact as well, and we need to be conscious of that. So there are things that we can all do in this room and online to of course, do something simple. It doesn't cost a lot, but if we can try and combine that activity together and think about those initiatives together, then you can make a collective and as well as an individual difference. A slight blip on the slide here, but hopefully it's not too distracting. But our drive for growth at HP is very clear. We want to make sure that there is complete recycling in over 3/4 of our packaging and product by 2030. So making sure that we have take-back schemes as we do today, reinforce those and ensure that we can deliver on a circular commitment that we've made by 2030, which is not far away at all in terms of re-engineering supply chains. And we're making great progress around that. 50% reduction in absolute value chain emissions. What does that mean? Another point that I will make is please really study the Science Based Targets Initiative's website. If you are looking at sourcing technology equipment or you're interested in technology, go and study those technology organizations, because you will hear a lot of headlines about being net zero by 2030. That's quite easy as a business. If you own your business, you can become net zero. But you have to make sure that your supply chain is net zero as well. And you don't always own your own supply chain. So making sure that we commit to absolute net zero across our full value and supply chain by 2030 is a massive commitment. And it's very different to the commitment about being net zero as our own organization. And we're very, very invested in that and making very good progress. When we look at human rights, certainly the great thing today about the workplace and, of course, the communities within which we live is, yes, of course, we've got always a lot of work to do. But, the focus on inclusivity within communities is better than we've ever seen it before. And HP stands at the forefront of that within the technology sector. And whether it's around making sure that we tackle and we raise awareness around racial issues that exist within communities, religious issues that, of course, oftentimes can plague conflicts that we see in the world today, making sure that we support and are embracing everybody's feelings and thoughts within the workplace and within the industry and communities is an area that we're very committed to standing up for and delivering on what matters. But also recognizing the contribution of gender diversity, an area the technology sector has struggled with for the last 30, 40, 50 years since its inception. Our focus as an industry could not be more around ensuring that not just we have good statistics around gender diversity, but actually we're investing in the early stage career paths of everyone to make sure that we are seen as a technology sector to be as inclusive as possible. All of those areas did not really exist as an industry or a discussion point 10 years ago. They certainly didn't exist when I started in the workplace 22 years ago. And we're very committed to making sure that we continue that awareness. And HP's commitment is very simple. I took the blue box as a snapshot out of our corporate social responsibility report. But our commitment is easy to articulate, and that's about being the best in the business for diversity, equality or equity, and inclusion. And we put in a lot of investment and time into our own people to make sure they have time to reach out into their respective communities to not just raise awareness, but tackle some of those deep-rooted issues that may exist. And we will continue that. But it's very simple. We want to make sure that people feel that they can belong within a culture, within our industry and within our company. Make sure that you can be expressive about what you want to achieve and how you want to innovate. And importantly, how do you grow in terms of your career within the workplace? And that is a massive area that I would ask and encourage all of you to have a think about. It's not easy to articulate all of those considerations in just a few minutes. This slide is probably a presentation in itself, but it's important to acknowledge those contributions that everybody makes within our industry and organization. And the final area is, when I was doing my research for this presentation, and what I really admired about Wales and the technology sector is there's already some amazing work that's being done today. I think the first and foremost thing that can always be done is recognizing best practice. If you've got a great project that you want to share with people and you're proud of, there should be the platforms within any industry to be able to go and share that and be proud of it amongst the community or industry cohorts that you operate within. And making sure that we recognize, slight microphone issue, making sure that we recognize the most innovative organizations and people is critical, and making sure that HP supports that is equally as important. And our commitment is again, very clear. It comes in, very simple forms, but what we want to do is continue to invest in the digital equity initiatives. And HP has a charity called the HP Foundation that actually delivers these projects and invests our capital back into making sure that we give access to everyone, regardless of whether it's in Wales or areas of economic development and requirement around the world. And I think the main point with all of this is that actually having equality in digital access is a basic, human right. Having access to the internet is a human right in itself, because it gives equality on a global stage. And we work very closely with Microsoft, who would be our largest partner in production and design and development. And one of those areas is, of course, making sure that those that have specific accessibility requirements that may not be able to work in technology in the way that we would, that a non-disabled person may be able to operate, is making sure that the technology is accessible and is equally accessible for those people that have specific needs and requirements. And that is a massive focus area for Microsoft, and it's therefore a massive focus area for HP as well. And you see great platforms that many organizations are producing, free to access platforms such as HP Life, and that gives modular access to learning about new technology areas and areas of innovation, making sure that we can deliver equity and equality to everyone in multiple language that will allow them to learn for the future. And one of those key areas for learning is, of course, I couldn't get away with the presentation without mentioning AI. I think that's probably fairly consistent across everything that you'll see and hear. But machine learning and artificial intelligence is, of course, a very hot topic within the tech sector. Some people see AI as a threat, understandably so. Others will see AI as a great opportunity to deliver diversity, inclusion, and equity within our industry and, of course, the wider globe. I just wanted to ask a quick question. Who has used ChatGPT? I use ChatGPT every day, so it's actually the majority of the audience. It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? I mean, I'm rubbish at writing sentences. I'm not great with writing words. And what I find amazing about ChatGPT is you can put in a sentence and say, please improve this sentence. And, it's more eloquent and articulate than, I could ever possibly imagine, even if I sat there for hours on end. And, that technology is there to stay, and we need to embrace it, and we need to make sure that we give, greater access to everyone so they can experience what ChatGPT as a basic form of artificial intelligence can deliver and improve on. And, very much so, yesterday I was listening to the BBC Radio 4 News, and Anthony Seldon was on the news programme in the morning talking about a new educational platform that is free to access for everyone to understand and learn what the impact of artificial intelligence can have for children, young adults, and future career paths. So if you get the opportunity to listen to that, or at least search it on the internet, there's a valuable source of early stage education available on the web from a trusted source already today. And that brings me to my final few points, is just around trust. With the emergence of artificial intelligence, machine learning, trust and integrity will become more important than ever before. And the reason why I say that is that everyone wants to make sure that there is a trusted source available and sat behind something. We've got a natural human instinct to trust and understand authenticity. And machine learning and artificial intelligence will not take away human learning and human intelligence, but actually making sure that we have the filters and the security platforms in place that will secure that artificial platform, but make sure that it's clear in terms of what those trusted sources are. And that's going to be a big area of innovation and concern for the technology sector and those investing in technology for the future. We are in the era of flexibility. Of course, most of us work from home more than we do in the office. We have, again, human requirements and needs that means that we want to interact as effectively as possible, but we need to embrace that era of flexibility and make sure we use it to our advantage and not to our detriment. I've spoken about the value of trust. That will continue to be important, not just in terms of trusting the supply chain and the suppliers that you may have within your own organizations and entities, but also the trust of how that content is being produced, what is the author and what is the source, and does it comply with the integrity and needs of your own organization or respective employers. And there will be plenty of opportunities in the technology sector for further investment and growth. AI I've mentioned, flexible working I've mentioned, security and trust I've mentioned, and sustainability I've mentioned. The corny bit of all of this is that HP is future ready. I do encourage you to be future ready as well. Some of the areas of innovation that we're putting into our own organization is using artificial intelligence to improve areas like building surveys, making sure that we invest in the technology that will deliver better efficiency as we see a rapid increase in construction, not just in the commercial, but also the residential sectors as well. And this is a good example of a product that you'll hopefully see more of over the coming years, which is the ability to read and survey buildings and areas that require safety assessments. We're putting more of our computing power into the functions and use cases of technology within key sectors. We've invested very heavily in security. We call it HP Wolf Security. I'm sure there's lots of other security packages and offerings out there. But the United Kingdom is recognized for being one of the centers of excellence for IT security. We have significant research and development, long-standing 50-year research and development premises in Bristol and Cambridge, where there's been a lot of focus on ensuring that we can deliver, as the United Kingdom, a strong security proposition within the technology sector. And what are we doing around unlocking the power of artificial intelligence? I think you'll see a lot of headlines around AI, naturally because marketing teams like to pin their hopes to the latest trends. But from a technology design, production, and standpoint perspective, then it's relatively simple. We have to make sure that the technology that we have in everything that we provide is capable of processing at a local level, i.e. on the device, the increased computing power that AI will require from those devices, making sure that that is secure and private and trusted. and making sure that we innovate our technology not just for the AI needs of today, but also recognizing the additional requirements that will be needed in 3, 4, 5 years' time. I did want to touch just very briefly on how we can support technology and community investment within Wales. As I said right at the start, I don't turn up here and just put a few photographs up of the Welsh landscapes and great universities that lead the world. But how can we support you in partnership? Well, HP is very much focused around partnership. We want to hear your opportunities to partner with you, particularly in terms of developing local initiatives, building community outreach programs, supporting how we can reforest the area of Wales through the projects that we already have at HP that we deliver around the world today. And importantly as well is that if you've got local communities and people with responsibilities of technology within your organization and you want to hear more about what technology can do alongside our partners such as Microsoft and Intel and others, then we have facilities that will enable you to understand more the detail in specific technology subject areas. So whether it be from the work we do with Direct Line, whether it's, of course, our support and investment in Wrexham, Airbus, South Wales Police, Cardiff University, and a number of other entities around Wales, I wanted to say, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening, and an opportunity now just to run through a few questions, and hopefully I'll give some answers to those questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Why don't we grab a seat if you take that one? I mean, you mentioned Wrexham at the very end, and I know I have a saying that Wrexham, the TV series Welcome to Wrexham, and as you know, I live in the United States, has done more for Wales than Wales has done, creating awareness in 80 years. When people say to me, "Where are you from?" I say I'm Welsh. They used to say, "What part of Welsh are you from?" which usually denotes they had no idea what they were talking about. Now they say, "Which part of Wales are you from?" And then they say, "Have you seen Welcome to Wrexham?" And I, of course, tell them I've seen every episode. What got you involved with Wrexham? Why did it start?
Well, it certainly boosted our social media visibility. There's no doubt about that. But I think, recognizing Wrexham has almost become a digital football club as well as a physical football club, and investing in that following is critical. But actually, when it comes to local communities, then seeing how technology is required within a sporting environment is absolutely paramount to the type of technology investments that we want to see the sporting industry making. But largely there's probably two reasons for it. The first is of course it gives us greater exposure to a global stage. There's no doubt about that. But also secondly as well is demonstrating that we don't just invest in large Premier League football sides. We do that with Tottenham Hotspur in London, but actually making sure that we invest in local community projects as well, because it makes the difference and it's recognized, and we've done that for many, many years.
Was the deal transacted in the US or in the UK? Was it led by your organization?
Yes, it was led by our organization, and it was signed in Wrexham, not in Hollywood. So that's a bonus. But it's exciting, and we're right at the early stages of it. So, as I said, if anyone wants to be a part of it, then feel free to contact me.
Great. You heard it here, right? Including people online, just a simple email. A couple of bullet questions for you, and then I want to see if there is any questions from the audience. But just one, give us the size and scope of HP in the United Kingdom. How many employees?
In total, we have approximately 900 employees, those focused on research and development. We've got 5 premises across the UK and Ireland, and we're a multi-billion pound organisation. So but most importantly as well is that our business has been in the United Kingdom from a production perspective, a research and development perspective, and of course a customer management perspective since the 1970s. And we're a long-established partner of many organisations in many industries around the country.
With 900 people, tell us a little bit about what you touched on earlier on, which is a new operating environment, a flexible working environment. Have you established a policy on a UK-wide basis? How are you enabling your employees?
Yeah, well, I think we're sort of past mandating people to be in the office 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, leaving them, Monday and Friday at home. What I've said to all of the people who manage teams within my business is that it's the managers, the leaders' responsibility to ensure that they maximize the opportunity at the right time to bring teams and communities together within the workplace. A very good example of that is I started at HP when I was 20 years old. I know I don't look much older than 20 now, but I am actually in my 40s. And I started, and I joined that business amongst 50 other undergraduates from university doing a placement year. And what I got a lot of value out of was looking at those senior folk in senior roles that had established their careers over 15, 20, 30 years. And I learned the physical, the human interaction, and the ability to deal with people with different experiences. When you now look at those undergraduate students that are doing placement years at university, and they're coming to offices, and there's 2 or 3 other people in the office, and 500 empty desks, how do those people feel, and how are they going to learn? Everyone, it doesn't matter whether you lead a team, you're a manager, you've been in the industry 40 years, you all, doesn't matter who you work for, you all have an obligation to make sure you inspire the next generation, the next people that will be leaders and developed, those developing their careers from now and into tomorrow. So making sure that people are aware of the need to come into the office rather than mandating that they come in is critical, and we feel that's working.
There is a question about equality and diversity even within the new flexible working structure, right? There are some people who don't want to be in the office, and there are some people who need to be in the office because they don't have the working space themselves. Yeah. I presume that you apply the DIE spirit to your work flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, there's no rule for 100% of people. You have to be flexible. That is a requirement that is never going to go away. There are those people that have commitments that mean they can't be in the office. They might live geographically, too far to be in the office regularly, and that's, it's important that you embrace that. But there's also a lot of people that can make it in. And there's a lot of people that also, not just about younger generation, early career folk, but there's people that also use and harbour the office as a safe place to go to, because there might be challenges at home, and actually coming to work enables them to have some relief from that. And there's a lot of people that live at home on their own, and so the social interaction of the workplace is something that's important, but it doesn't need to be 5 days a week. Yeah. It just needs to be in moderation and balance of what everybody's comfortable with, and what they're able to support.
Yeah. Firstly, 10 minutes into our questions. Thank you for your presentation. I think we're always skeptical when a large company stands up and says great things about itself, but I was struck by the proof points that backed up the many statements that you made. Are there some specifics about what you do from a sustainability perspective that are happening in the UK and to some extent maybe even in Wales?
Yeah. Well, I mean, last year we planted well over 10,000 trees as part of a community project. We work in hundreds of schools every year. We invest in technology for young students across multiple councils around the country. We deliver and we do what we say we're going to do. We don't just talk about far-reaching projects that might be interesting to those in the audience. What we want to do, and it's not easy all the time to turn up and say, if you've got a project that you're interested in us investing in, we absolutely will always listen to that. And we will try our best to support all of those projects. Now, there are 900 HP employees in the United Kingdom and Ireland. There's 65 million people in the UK and Ireland. So the balance is not always is not always as easy to enable us to do all projects. But stuff that makes a difference, whether it be big or small, means a lot to us. And as I said, what can easily be done for less than 100 quid is going out there and running a team building project or a local community project that's going to see us reforesting parts of Wales and the broader United Kingdom as appropriate, and doing it correctly as well. You can't just walk out there and start planting oak trees and expect the planet to be better. It's got to be done in a structured way, and that's what we bring in terms of our partnerships with the Forestry Commission and others locally that will help us to do that.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, is there any questions either from the audience or Katrina, if there's anything online, you'll let me know, I know. And while the audience is busily thinking about the hardest question to ask you in the conference, I will warn you that if we don't get one, I want to talk about HP in Wales in a second and what attracts potential investors to a country like Wales. Any questions? Thank you very much, lady. There's a microphone right behind you. Here it comes. The acoustics are a little strange in here, so sometimes if we feel like we can't hear you, I apologize.
Featured.
Oh, there it is. Now it's on. Do start again.
Tracy Sweet from Cardiff Capital Region. I just wanted to ask about your slide on future discoveries, specifically tech for Wales. Just a question on future discoveries.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that?
Right. Thank you. Sorry the microphones, it's been quite hard all week, but we got there. Elaborate on future discoveries, Neil.
Yeah, I mean, the point for us is always that the technology market doesn't stand still. We need to be cognizant of what the future is going to provide us. We don't always disclose what the roadmap is for the future in terms of technology, but the main point I think in the slide that you're referring to is our open invitation to anyone online or in this room that if you want to learn more about some of the technology trends, go into more detail about it, we can use our facilities around the United Kingdom. We can come and see you to talk about what those trends will be, things that you need to be considerate of, particularly if you're looking to make sizable investments in IT infrastructure. So we call them discovery sessions. They are, in short, invitations, open invitations to anyone that's interested in learning more about not just what HP is doing in the technology sector, but some of those broader trends that I mentioned that can have an impact in some of your decision-making, policy creation and strategy creation for the future. So happy to give you more information about that later on.
Just maybe adding to your question, and thank you for asking it. Maybe a little bit of context for the audience around what constitutes HP's business, what's the primary revenue source for HP these days? Still the laptop computer device, or has it shifted or changed?
Well, we're a constantly evolving business, but about 50% of what we do is generated in the world of personal computing. The other 50% is created in areas like printing, managed print services, the world of subscription and device as a service, and also we make acquisitions. We acquired a company called Poly last year, which delivers meeting room collaboration, Zoom and Teams infrastructure to both personal users, but also meeting room solutions as well. So it's evenly spread across the categories that we major on.
And we saw a bit of operational IT as well, right? That little device that looked a little bit like a vacuum cleaner for a single second, and then I realized that it was something different. Are there any future-like technologies that you're witnessing coming out of HP's R&D department that you're like, wow, that's really interesting?
Yeah, I think as the strength and the accessibility to IT networks, the internet, the emergence of 5G. The one thing that is of course quite perplexing at times is the way we use a laptop is very different to the way we use mobile smartphones. Is that you're always connected with your smartphone because you need it for multiple reasons. But seemingly, whenever you get your laptop out, you've got to connect to a public Wi-Fi. Is it secure? Question mark. Should we be owning our own network connection in the same way we do with a smartphone? And I think what you'll see in personal computing is far more personalized connectivity to devices, and that will come through the emergence and investment in 5G networks. Owning and trusting the way that you connect to the outside world will become a very important feature over the next 10 years. And we've got to innovate to that. But also centralizing computing power as well. AI, you're not going to be able to deliver on the requirement of AI computing from a device in front of you. You've got to have great network connectivity to access centralized computing and pull that computing power as and when you need it. And that's a big engineering feat for any personal computing organization, as well as data center and infrastructure focused organizations. And I think the final piece is just around how we procure technology, making sure that it's environmentally sustainable, making sure that you're reassured of those supply chains and where that technology is originating from. And then ultimately, how do you capitalize that? Is there as much free cash available to invest in the capital purchase of hardware, or are we seeing the emergence, of course, of the world of services and subscription-based computing that will deliver more flexibility as a workforce might increase or decrease over time? So there's lots of major trends. I can't sit here today and say the laptop is going to be something different tomorrow, because I think the form factor will continue to evolve, and we're humans at the end of the day. You don't just change something, in a short space of time, but we're always open to suggestions. So if you've got any innovation ideas, then we'll happily hear about them, and maybe you'll get a royalty or something further down the line.
Any final questions before we wrap up with one last question from me? So Wales. Mm-hmm. Thank you for being thoughtful about ensuring that you are touching on Wales, obviously. And it's good of you to come. So one of the things that we ask ourselves all the time is, how does Wales become more attractive for inward investment? Do you have any thoughts or advice for a country of our size that would help us?
Actually, I don't have a pre-scripted answer for this. So
Neil had no idea what I was going to ask
Yeah.
you, by the way.
And thanks very much for that.
You're welcome.
And by the way, you don't need to thank me for coming to Wales. It's not like a chore or anything. I actually love the country and love playing golf here in particular. I'll give a very good example in a short space of time. One of our big areas that we focus on is consumer retail. It's high volume. It involves massive logistical and transport requirements. And oftentimes, our retailers that sell laptops have very specific needs around logistics and transportation. We ship products on container ships as efficiently and effectively as we can do. Oftentimes, the retailers have very specific storage requirements. They require us to unpallet and repallet products. They require us to put certain products in certain numbers on certain pallets with certain labels and codes. And projects that I've worked on historically is actually looking at areas that we want to invest in and seek more partnership with, particularly in areas like public sector or higher education. We look to invest our broader transport and logistics investments into those parts of the economy that we want to grow in. So actually working with our partner base and training and skilling and building some of the educational certifications that allows you to understand transport and logistics are areas that we're really interested in. So finding ways that is going to enhance the career paths of people locally oftentimes ties into the corporate objectives that we have. The hard thing is understanding where they are and tying the two together. And sometimes it's happenstance that we fall upon these opportunities. But, always come to us proactively with an idea. We were always open to thinking about how we can invest in local communities, and that doesn't have to be England. It absolutely is Wales is a big part of that, and we've delivered very similar projects in Scotland with Scottish government as well. So being more engaging and proactive with your technology suppliers is pivotal to opening up some of those investment opportunities.
Brilliant. Neil, thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure to have you with us today. Good luck in your future career, and thank you for what HP is doing for the world.
Thank you, and thank you all. Thanks for your time.
Ciao.